The jobs report for April shows multiple worrisome trends for the long-term health of the U.S. economy. According to experts, one concern is that native-born American workers are sitting on the sidelines. One America's Daniel Baldwin has more.
We're speaking with Dr. E.J. Antoni, economist for the Heritage Foundation Committee to Unleash Prosperity. Sir, I want to talk about Native Americans versus foreign workers. What trends have you noticed when it comes to the employment growth of these two specific types of people, specifically in the report that came out Friday?
Well, what we've seen essentially is the fact that native-born Americans simply have been left behind in this economic recovery. We see that their employment today, in other words, the number of native-born Americans who are employed, who have jobs right now, is actually below pre-pandemic levels and way below the pre-pandemic growth trend. Conversely, foreign-born workers have not only surpassed their pre-pandemic levels, but have actually gotten all the way back up to the pre-pandemic growth trend. So that tells us that all of the net job growth since the pandemic, since February of 2020, has gone to foreign-born workers, not native-born Americans.
Why do you think that is? It's a fascinating statistic. Obviously, you explained why the native-born workers are sort of staying at home now, but why are these foreign-born workers taking these jobs? Is it because the native-born Americans are just staying home? Or is there something specifically tailored to them, or is it just too difficult to tell?
Well, one of the key elements that explains, I think, a large part of it is the fact that we are essentially importing so much cheap labor that those are the only people who are willing to work for the kinds of jobs that businesses are offering today in such a high inflation environment. Going back to something we said earlier about how businesses simply have had their margins cut too much by higher costs, and so they don't have the wiggle room anymore in their budgets to pay higher wages to American workers. And we saw this with Tyson Foods, for example, where they laid off a lot of native-born Americans. Why? In order to replace them with foreign-born workers who will work for lower wages. And so this is a product of incorporating all of these foreigners into the labor market who are not doctors, who are not lawyers, right, who are not economists. Mm-hmm. They are essentially low-skilled or no-skilled labor, which will work for very cheap wages.
Doctor, real quick, did you notice anything in the report today or anything overall, in general specifically, that gives you sort of hope that the inflation, the rampant inflation that we're seeing, will slow down at some point throughout the year, or do you just foresee this continuing going down this path?
You know, unfortunately, we really don't have any good indications that say that we're going to get inflation down, certainly not down to the 2% target of the Federal Reserve. You know, we just had an announcement last week where Jerome Powell said he's going to taper the quantitative tightening, which is basically just a fancy way of saying that he's going to provide more money for Janet to sell her treasuries because she's selling too much for the market to absorb. That's going to help bring down interest rates that the government is paying on its debt, but it's going to cause inflation to continue.
Certainly will. Dr. E.J. Antoni, economist for the Heritage Foundation and the Committee to Unleash Prosperity. We appreciate you joining us on One American News to break it all down. Thank you so much for your time, Doctor.
Thank you for having me.
For all our viewers asking where One American News is heading in the future, we would like to introduce you to OAN Live. OAN Live is the best way to stay up to date on all of the hard-hitting, straight-shooting, national and international headlines. And the best part is, OAN Live is only $4.99 per month. All the credible, honest, unbiased reporting One American News offers at a fraction of the cost of cable. Just go to OANN.com to easily sign up for OAN Live and stay informed.